There's another one you don't want to hear. Frankly, if you want.
1, 2, 3, set, go.
Hello, and thank you so much for tuning into episode 111 of the Power Chord Hour podcast. As always, I'm your host, Anthony Merchant, and on this one, I am here with your June 2022 rundown of the show, talking new music and music news of the month. We are here at the end of another one, and we're going to go through it all. You know, last month for May, I was just running around like crazy doing interviews. And that was such a big part, I feel like, of the May rundown, was talking about a lot of interviews that you hadn't heard yet, actually, that you kind of heard here within this last month. And it's funny, after that, June was pretty barren. I had some good interviews this month, but not a lot of them. You know, I did so many during May that it just... We were good. We were good for a while. I didn't need to go too crazy. I actually have a few lined up this weekend before the end of June, but nothing that you'll hear for at least another week or so. But I'm starting to kind of look. The problem, I guess the one problem that I didn't think about before though with it all is that, you know, May was hectic, so June wasn't, because I took a break from doing tons and tons of interviews. I still did some. But what will probably happen is July will probably be crazy again, because I kind of slacked off during June. So I'm very much expecting to have a pretty crazy July. And maybe that's not so bad either, because I'm really like as excited as I am for summer shows. And I did see a few concerts this month, and we'll get into those and everything. But I am still saving for Alaska. If you listen to the show, you've probably heard me mention a few times that I really, really want to go to Alaska. I'm turning 30 in November, and Alaska's the last state I got to go to. I have been to the 49 other ones, and I got to hit this one, and I got to save some money to do it. I'm definitely not, I don't know, probably shouldn't go on a Alaskan trip, but I really want to, so I need to budget and save my money, because I'm sure it won't be cheap. But I really, really want to do it. So, kind of budgeting my money for shows this summer. You know, I definitely still plan on going and seeing some next month here in July. But I'm like really kind of considering which ones I want to go to and all that. Because that's the other thing, being in Jamestown here, the concerts, you got to drive to them. So, I have to figure out, is a show worth driving, 2.5 hours to Cleveland, almost 3 hours to Pittsburgh, an hour and a half to Buffalo, that kind of stuff. Erie, Pennsylvania, which gets shows every now and then. That's the closest. That's like a 40-minute drive for me, and like one of the best. I love when bands play there, and not enough bands do. So this is me telling you, number one, you definitely come play Jamestown, and that would be amazing. But also, if you can't play here, go play Erie, because it's a nice, quick drive. That's the secret. You can get people from Jamestown to come see you in Erie, because it's really not a bad drive at all. We can go up, see your show, still get home at a decent hour. It's not the same as like Pittsburgh or Rochester or something like that, where like, you're getting home at like 3 a.m. and you have to be up at like 7 kind of a deal. So would love to see more shows there. But yeah, I'm kind of figuring out who I'm going to go see next month. I know Taking Back Sunday and Hot Rod Circuit are playing on July 10th up in Buffalo, and I'm planning on that one. I enjoy Taking Back Sunday, but I've seen them live tons and tons over the years. So the big one there is definitely Hot Rod Circuit. I've never seen them live. I saw Andy Jackson Acoustic like 6 years ago. So I definitely want to go see that. Who knows the next time Hot Rod Circuit's going to be playing, in Western New York. This is, you don't get tons and tons of chances to see them live. And from video that I've seen, they still seem like they're really, really good live, like worth going and seeing. So I'll probably be at that. Everclear and Fastball are playing around the area, quite a few places. I got to work a couple of them, but they're playing a few dates, so I can still go check those out. And what else? Punk and Drublick I might go to in Cleveland on July 8th, but I was also telling my buddy Dylan Flynn from Past the Bass, who we had on back in May, I would help him if he was going to that to sell shirts and everything. I think right now he's trying to figure out transportation and everything and getting from Columbus to Cleveland. But if that happens, I'll probably go to Punk and Drublick, but I'll be selling T-shirts. Hopefully it's set up so I can like watch the bands while I'm selling t-shirts. But my main concern while I'm there will be selling Past the Bass merch, which, hey, if I do, I'll definitely let you know so you can come up and say hello. I'll bring some Power Chord Hour stickers. I gotta say, I am so stoked. We got Power Chord Hour t-shirts. I can't remember the exact day Grace brought those in. I think I talked about that on the May rundown, but I've definitely talked about it on the show since we got them. But we're about out now. I have, I think, 4 at home, and really, to be honest, 2 or 3 of those are pretty much called for. So I have like 1 or 2, and I mean they went so fast. I mean, I think the shirts have always went at a pretty decent pace, but like she's gotten them made 3 times. And I definitely would say the first time she got them made in 2019, it still probably took a couple months to get rid of all of them. And then the second batch she got last year, those I got rid of fairly faster. That one I think took maybe like a month, maybe 2 months. And this one took like weeks. I mean, she got them to me either end of May, beginning of June. And they went really, really fast. We also just did a WRFA Great American Picnic, which is like a yearly fundraiser for the radio station that we do the Power Chord Hour on. And I had a few shirts that actually, really, I was gonna hand out a bunch of shirts at it, but I thought I had a bunch, and then I went and looked in the box the day of, and I had like 7 or 8 left. And again, a few of them were spoken for, so I'm like, well, I guess I'm bringing like 4 or 5. But did give out some Power Chord Hour swag at that. But I mean, I am very happy that people obviously want them, and they went very, very fast. So I cannot complain that the shirts are pretty much gone. I mean, if you want, depending on if we still have them or not, if you want one of them. The big thing that I was doing was if you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, doesn't matter wherever you listen to it, wherever you can subscribe and rate and review it, send me a screenshot of that. You can email me, powerchordhour@gmail.com. You can hit me up on our social media, whatever. Just give me a screenshot of it, and I'll send you a t-shirt. So, I mean, again, we got like 1 or 2 left. If you would like one of those, I would hit me up real fast. But I would love to send you one of the few that are left, and I'll definitely throw in some of those stickers and guitar picks, which I really don't. I still have some, but I don't really promote them. I kind of, to be honest, I give them out to guests from time to time, and I personally play them. To be honest, I play. I can't wear my own radio show's t-shirt. Definitely, you will not see me playing wearing a Power Chord Hour t-shirt, but you will see me playing Power Chord Hour guitar picks. I do think that's okay. That's acceptable. I mean, that's like, obviously guitarists in a band are going to play a pick, with their band logo or some shit on it. You're not going to go play a pick from some other band, So I feel the same way with me playing Power Chord Hour picks, but I'll probably throw some of those in and stuff too as a thank you for rating and reviewing and subscribing and all that rad stuff. But I am very happy at how fast those shirts went. So not a bad thing at all that that they're gone. So shout out Grace. That was also just very rad of her. I mean, to get those made for no reason besides just being a fan of the show, like, and she got a lot of them made too. Like every time she gets them made, I don't know that I've ever counted, but I want to say there has to be like 40 or 50. I want to say there's like 40 or 50 shirts in those things. So very cool for big thank you to her, and also a big thank you to everyone who has reviewed and subscribed and all that for a t-shirt, and just everyone hitting me up for them. Very much appreciate everyone wanting them and getting to send them out and everything. So that is very cool. That was something neat happened this month. I don't know I feel like June just went by so fast, even though I really wasn't doing interviews. I got a few in, but yeah, not tons. I did for Arts on Fire. I did get to talk to George Porter Jr. of The Meters. And Arts on Fire is another radio show I do on WRFA. And George Porter Jr., if you've never heard of The Meters, they're like considered one of the very first funk bands, like going all the way back with James Brown and Funkadelic and everything. They're up there as like originators of the genre, and they're from New Orleans. And just, I mean, number one, amazing band, but I mean also again, like godfathers of a genre, really, which is just amazing. And again, talk to George Porter Jr., their bass player, which I'm a bass player through and through. I play guitar, but I'm shitty at guitar. I mean, I don't think I'm the world's greatest bass player, but I can at least get around a bass neck. Guitar, I'm pretty much power chords and octaves and shit like that. You're not really going to catch me playing much lead, but with bass, I'm a little more confident in my chops. But getting to talk to, I mean, technically one of the very first funk bass players, which funk music has the best bass playing that there is. Like, if you're a bass player, there's really not another genre that's more fun, I would argue. I mean, just the rhythm section, I would say, in funk. Because, I mean, drums, too. Drums and bass are just such a, like, you know, it's such a driving force of just funk music. And it's like, it's not that guitar and stuff takes a back seat, but I do feel like almost everything else kind of differently, right? I think there's a lot of genres where, you know, drum and bass might they might stay in the pocket, kind of stick to one thing, kind of let guitar and shit kind of do a little more, but, you know, it's definitely not that way with, at least with good funk music. And again, to get to talk to someone who, like, laid down what really the blueprints to what funk bass is. And he was great to talk to. He was so much fun. I got to talk to him for like an hour. And, we got really heavy on the bass. I mean, we talked a lot about, like, just his rig throughout the years, what he, different stuff he's played, what he thinks makes a good bass player, what he thinks makes a good drummer. And he said consistency. I'm like, what do you, it was so funny. I'm like, what do you think makes a good drummer? What do you, when you're on stage, you're playing bass, you're trying to lock in with them, like, you're really trying to make something happen, really get that groove going, like, what do you want? And he's just like, consistency. Like, that's what I wanted a drummer, just consistency. Like whatever tempo you're keeping, please keep it. Like, don't change it up, stay tight in that way. But he was just so much fun to talk to. It was a total honor. He's just one of those people where I think of, like, who I've gotten to interview, and he's up there as one where I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. Like, that is it's pretty neat to get to put him in my roster. And he's playing Jamestown. Actually, speaking of shows we go into, he's playing Jamestown here down the street from WRFA on July 21st, I believe it is. And I'm excited for that. I will definitely be at that show. That's going to be a really good show. The meters are long broken up, but he still does a bunch of stuff with his band, George Porter Jr. and the Running Partners, and plays with a bunch of different people. Just really amazing guy. And he's playing Red Rocks later this summer. I mean, just one of the coolest venues in the world, and just getting to talk about it's like he's played it before. Like, this ain't his first rodeo. And he was just like, I love talking to musicians like that who have been around for that long and are like, for one, too, they're also someone you can talk to. Like, he was more than willing to talk bass and music, and like wasn't like, fuck off, kid. Like, I don't want to talk bass for an hour and stuff. Like, very, very cool. Answered every question I had, indulged on the instrument with me, like, just, really got into things. And I really, I appreciate that with anyone I'm interviewing. But when you have someone like that who, you look at and go, like, my God, like, you are very important to, to funk music. Like, that's pretty rad. Like, you're very important to a genre as a whole. And to get to talk to you, to get to talk to you for that long was really, really cool. If you want to listen to that too, it's not on the Power Chord Hour podcast feed, but it is up on the WRFA website. If you go to WRFALP.com, there's like a little audio on demand. You'll find it if you look around. You can probably even search like Arts on Fire, George Porter Jr., or just like something like that on the website, and you will probably end up at it. But if you look on there, I'm sure you will find it, and a really fun interview. Also on our SoundCloud page. That might even be easier if you just go to SoundCloud, search WRFA, and there's bunch of interviews I've done. I've been the host of Arts on Fire since March, so there's tons and tons of interviews on there from me talking to a bunch of different people. I mean, far from just musicians, but even with musicians, like a lot of, like, I've talked to like blues artists, country artists, like, people far out of my realm. Like, you know the kind of people I talk to on the Power Chord Hour. You probably have a good gauge on what my taste in music is like. But it's fun to talk to people outside of just, like punk rock and alternative music, because I think what you end up finding too is, even if like you guys aren't like, on the same page, like musically on like your tastes and stuff, you will still get really excited just talking to another musician who's just genuinely excited about music. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter what music you're playing. We can just connect in this way of, like, isn't it great? Like, doesn't it feel great to create your own music? Doesn't just hearing music you love from other people, isn't that great? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you start finding those common grounds no matter what kind of music you play, and it's just like, it's fun to talk to musicians, you know, and far out of that. You know, last month you talked to like Colin Mockery of Whose Line Is It Anyway, along with he does hip-prov with I talked about this I'm sure last month, but with Asad Mekki, who's a master hypnotist. And it's like, I've never interviewed someone who is a hypnotist before, you know, and I have interviewed a few people who do like improv, but definitely not like, you know, arguably one of the most famous, I would say, improv artists of all time, you know, for sure. And actually, you know, going off that, and it wasn't a Power Chord Hour episode, though I would love to have them on together. But actually, I will take credit, though, for getting this to happen. I will go ahead and right here, right now, tell you that if you enjoy this episode, I am 100% the reason that it happened. But I had the idea a while back when I was interviewing John Jughead Pearson, still one of the best interviews of the year and one of my favorites of all time on the show. But, you know, listening to Even in Blackouts and the acoustic punk and everything and going like, and also just, you know, with John being in improv and theater and everything and going like, you know, I think he probably likes the Violent Femmes. Like, I didn't know for sure before talking to him, but I had a feeling he did. Like, and there's not a lot online. I think I even looked up like, you know, Screeching Weasel, Violent Femmes, or like, you know, John Jughead Pearson, Violent Femmes, just different things. Because I'm like, I feel like that's an influence on him. And I really couldn't find much, but come to find out, and not too surprisingly, they're one of John's favorites. And I've had John on the show earlier this year, and then I've had Victor DiLorenzo of the Violent Femmes. He's been on twice. He was on earlier this year with Janet Schiff, his bandmate from 1913, and he was on last September. And he's another John and Victor. Both of them are like up there in like my favorite guests of all time. They're up there as some of the nicest people. I mean, talk again like going with George Porter Jr. and you talk about legends. And also of genres. I mean, you know, Violent Femmes basically created acoustic punk, like folk punk, acoustic punk, all of that. Like any kind of punk rock that has like acoustic guitar in it, or kind of those like quirky lyrics and like quirky vocals and stuff. Like all Violent Femmes, like 100%. You have the Violent Femmes for that. You know, it really didn't exist before them. It did not. And same with Screeching Weasel. I mean, as far as pop punk goes, I mean, that band really did lay down a blueprint for, you know, just punk rock of the 90s and beyond, you know, and really did help define that Lookout sound. But I mean, anyway, just both of those guys being in, you know, just amazing, legendary, seminal bands, and both of them being in punk rock, but also like actors and do improv and theater, and just, you know, are more than just your traditional, yeah, I'm a punk musician and that's all I do. Like, you know, they do so much more than that, of all this range. And, you know, I brought it up to John when I was interviewing him, but I'm like, you know, I think I asked him in the interview about, and you can listen because you can hear it in the interview, and I think I asked him if he likes Violent Femmes or something. And I think afterwards I don't think I said it in the interview, but I did say after, it's like, oh, you know, like if you're a fan, I could probably get you and Victor, you know, hooked up. I would love to hear that interview. And lo and behold, they did it. And it just came out the other day on John's podcast, Jughead's Basement. And it is him interviewing Victor DiLorenzo of the Violent Femmes. And such a good interview for all the reasons that I thought it would. I thought those two would mesh amazingly. Like they are two people who, and I can't believe I can say it, but like have spent multiple hours on the phone, you know, talking and interviewing to both of them. And, you know, I just realized, I was like, you know, these two are going to mesh really well, like pretty soon into talking to John, because at that point I've already interviewed Victor twice and knew him, you know, decently. I'm not going to say he's like my best friend, but again, I've talked to him and like interviewed him for probably a collectively, you know, 4 hours or something. But yeah, it came out really well, and I knew it would, because those two mesh really well. They had a lot of commonalities. I think they also knew some people, you know what I mean? Some overlap where like they knew, or at least knew of, the same people, including in like acting and stuff like that. You also got to think, I mean, you know, John from Chicago and Victor from Milwaukee, you know, they're not terribly far away. And yeah, it was a really, really good interview. You should go listen to that on Jughead's Basement. And also shout out to him, because John gave me a shout out on his podcast. And I mean, he's done it before, but it doesn't matter how many times you hear it. When, you know, when someone you look up to like that musically, like gives you a shout out, says like, thanks Anthony Merchant from the Power Chord Hour, or whatever he said, like, it's just fucking cool. You know what I mean? There's no way around it. It's just fucking cool. So go check that out. If you've not listened to those interviews too, go listen to my interview with John Jughead Pearson from back in March. And then we got 2 with Victor DiLorenzo, one back in January with him and Janet Schiff, and then one back in September. And both of them, just, I mean, absolute legends. Really fun to talk to, and it was cool to hear them talk to each other. That was very rad. And I gotta say, Jughead's Basement, one of the best podcasts out there. Like, John legitimately knows how to interview someone. Like, that's one of the biggest downfalls. Like, listen, I've tried listening to Fat Mike's Fat Mike, or yeah, that's the name of it, Fat Mike's podcast. It's not like, it's fun for a couple minutes because it's like, oh, it's Fat Mike, but like, it just doesn't. When you get to the actual interview and stuff like that, it's not good. Like, if it was just a solo podcast from Fat Mike, like, and actually, to his credit, I don't think everyone can just do a solo podcast and it sound good. I don't know that these sound good when I go solo, so I'm not saying mine are good either, but I actually think Fat Mike is interesting enough where he could probably get away with doing a solo one, maybe even having like a co-host, but like, I don't know, as far as interviews and stuff go, just not great. You know what I mean? Not very good at it. And I think a lot of like bands and artists and shit will like start a podcast and they're just really fucking bad at hosting them. Like, they can't do it and they can't interview and stuff like that. But with John, like, he is naturally good at it. Like, he is truly good, and not just good for like, oh, you know, he's better than most. It's like, he is legitimately a good interviewer. Like, even if I didn't know who he was, I'd go, this guy's really good at, you know, talking to his guests and everything. But yeah, Jughead's Basement, really, really good podcast. If you've never listened to that, you should definitely go listen to that as well. And he doesn't really need my plug. I mean, I'm sure a lot more people are listening to Jughead's Basement than the Power Chord Hour podcast. I never played guitar in Screeching Weasel, believe it or not. So I'm going to say he probably has more listeners, but always a great time talking to him. I had to let him know, too, the other day. I shot him an email. It was like, that was a great episode. Like, that was it was fun to listen to them. And again, I just knew they would sound good. Like, I knew, or not sound good, I just knew they would work well together. Like, they just have, I don't know, I feel like they have like similar personalities. And also it was cool too, because like John interviews a lot of people who, I mean, he obviously already knows, like, you know, that dude knows a lot of people in the industry, and he interviews a lot of his peers and stuff like that. And a lot of times I feel like it's the guest who's more starstruck talking to John. You know, it's someone who like grew up listening to his music. Where John, I don't feel like is interviewing. I mean, there's a couple of them, but I don't think he's interviewing as many of like his musical heroes. You know, more than anything, people getting interviewed by him are getting interviewed by their musical heroes. But like, you can, and he does a great job in the interview, but you can still tell he's genuinely a fan of, you know, the Violent Femmes and Victor's work. Like, I also like hearing him from that standpoint, because that's not always how you, you know, hear him with the guests. So I thought that was very cool. So you should go listen to that. Another one you should listen to, even though it's not out yet, so you can't. But it'd be my last interview for the month here. Tomorrow I'll be talking to Tim Rogner of Alistair, which we had him on back in 2019 when I was still living in Minneapolis, was the last time I talked to him. And I think it was like, I think that interview was probably like maybe April or May, so like almost exactly like 3 years ago. Insane. But we're going to be talking about Last Stop Suburbia for its 20th anniversary. I mean, still one of the most, like, when you think of early 2000s pop punk, I think that album is such a defining sound of like what that era, like if you went, what does a certain era sound like? What does early 2000s pop punk sound like? That record is like one of the best representations like ever. And I mean, even more specifically, like Somewhere on Fullerton, I mean, that song is just, again, like what does a pop punk song sound like in this era? There you go. Like, that song has like all the characteristics that, you know, made that era so great. And yeah, still one of the best from Drive Thru Records. I'm very lucky because, I mean, I love Drive Thru Records, you know, very much. I make no secret of it. You know, I love those bands and everything. And we'll talk more about Drive Thru later on in music news. But like, I've gotten to talk to a few Drive Thru artists, and it's like, honestly, some of the best ones. I think Alistair, as time goes on, they're one of the ones I go back to the most. And with Hidden in Plain View, you know, last week we had Rob Freeman and Joe Rio on, and they're another one where it's like, and I don't even listen to a lot of like post-hardcore emo like these days. You know, there's a few bands, but like, it's a much shorter list than it was maybe, say, 10 years ago. But Hidden in Plain View, I think like really they stand the test of time in that way. When I listen back to like Drive Thru bands, I think they've aged like I think they're one of the ones that have like aged the best. I really think that stuff is so good. But yeah, we'll be talking to Tim Rogner here, and that'll be out in a couple weeks. And I have a couple others in the fire for like early July, some interviews, but they are not 100% like confirmed, set in stone. So I'll keep my mouth shut on those. We'll wait till we're closer to that. But yeah, I've been listening music-wise, listening to tons and tons of the new Joyce Manor record. They did not disappoint at all. It is a nice mix, and I think I said this on an earlier episode when I played their first single off the record, Gotta Let It Go. But like I was hearing some people say it was like a return to form to their older stuff, and I was like, I didn't really hear it that way. But now that the record's out, I would say the album as a whole is like, I think in some ways it is. I think if you were a bigger fan of the older records versus the sound off the last two albums, I think there's maybe more here than there were on the last two. But I also don't feel like it's straight up, just a, we're trying to recreate like the self-titled record or anything like that. I mean, there's maybe some spirit of the older stuff in there, but I think overall it's good because it's not like a step backwards or anything like that. It's not people didn't really seem to like this sound, so let's just appease the fans kind of thing. It doesn't really seem like that. I mean, the album came out really well, and I mean, so goddamn short. It is not a long album at all, so you can hear it very, very fast. And the new 3LH record too, I've been listening to that a ton. Those have been the two, Joyce Manor and the I'm trying to remember what the hell it's called, because I can't say the new 3LH record and not let you know what it's called. Silver Dream Road. I'm fucking terrible at remembering titles, but I will tell you that record fucking really, really good. And the guitar work on it, I mean, excellent. Very, very, everything about the album's great, but the guitar work like stands out. Like I believe there's two guitarists in the band, and it is such a good, really good sound, really good tone. I really like it. You gotta go listen to that album. That one came out like late last month. And Joyce Manor came out like a week or two later. But those have been my two big listens. Those are kind of like on there as, including as it's getting nice out, or it is nice out now. And, I think of like summer records, what to put on when I'm like leaving the house. Those are definitely like the two go-to ones right now. So I'm definitely enjoying those on my little summer drives. So that's kind of what I've been doing this month. I feel like I've been busy, but I don't know what I've been busy with. Like, I'm not entirely sure what I've been staying busy doing. I did get to go, like I mentioned earlier, I did get to go to two shows though this month, which was very, very cool. I went and saw Jeremy Porter, former guest of the show, and I saw him up in Buffalo. He was playing a free show up in I cannot remember the name. It's like Dundee, or the Silos at Dundee, or something of that. And he was excellent. I got to give him props. So it was a Tuco show, but their drummer, and I'm blanking on his name. If you go back and listen to our interview from a few weeks ago or a few months ago, we say the name of their drummer, but he was out, and they were on a little Western New York tour. And they were down a drummer, which is a fairly important thing. But it was just him and their bass player, and they did amazing. They did a really, really good job together. And also, again, I feel like an ass. I cannot think of their bass player's name. He's a really, really good bass player. I mean, I already knew that just from listening to them, but hearing them live and how much he was filling out the sound with no drummer, just him and Jeremy up there, was amazing. I mean, they really, and I'd get props to him afterwards, because it's like, I know it wasn't an easy situation. It wasn't an ideal situation either, but they made the most of it, and I thought did a excellent show. It was great to meet Jeremy afterwards too. I really, I've done so many interviews and stuff on the show, but I don't know how many people I've really met after doing the interviews, because it's been COVID, so there really hasn't been a lot of concerts. I mean, I've really done a good majority of my interviews, from like 2020 and on. So like, just starting to get back to going to shows. And it was great to meet him and talk to him and everything. And he had nothing but nice things to say about our episode. And he was a really fun one. That was a really fun episode, getting to do that. I think it was episode 101, which it's just crazy because it was a long time ago, and it also wasn't a long time ago when I think back to that one, where I go, well, shit, I guess it was like back in, I think we maybe did it like April. I want to say we recorded that in like April, and then that maybe came out late April, early May. But it was great to go see him. He put on a great show. And then, funny enough, the other show I went to go see, well, I didn't see him play. I went with former guest of the show, Joey Cobra. You know him, you love him. He's been on the show a ton. And we went to go see the Flatliners, also in Buffalo. I saw both shows in Buffalo. And that one I do know. That was not a new venue for me. We went and saw them at Mohawk Place. And goddamn, I have not seen a show at Mohawk Place since 2017. The last one I can remember was Mustard Plug. Unless I'm forgetting one, the last time I saw a show there, it was like spring or summer 2017 with Mustard Plug and Jay Navarro and the Traders. And it was a really good show, but that's the last show I saw there. And I also haven't seen a show in Buffalo since 2017. The last show I think I saw there was also former guest of the show, Jeff Cadill. And again, you see what I'm saying here is that show was also like a year or so before I ever interviewed him, so it wasn't like I knew him when I went and saw him. So a lot of these people I like interview, but never, at least not yet. I'm sure I'll eventually get around to seeing most of these people I interview live. But yeah, going there again to see a show for the first time in 5 years, and it's just crazy because really Buffalo is my stomping ground for years and years and years, like including in college and before that too, in high school and even in middle school and stuff, like going to shows up in Buffalo all the time, but really during college, because I was going to college an hour away from there, and just constantly, you know what I mean? It wouldn't be weird to be up in Buffalo, 4 or 5 times a month, not weird at all. And then to realize you hadn't seen a show there in like 5 years is pretty fucking crazy, actually. But I realized that, and it was great to go back. The Flatliners, amazing, great seeing a show again at Mohawk Place. And it's been so long too since I've seen a show in, like, let alone Mohawk Place, but just a nice sweaty dive bar like that. Like the best places to see shows. I haven't seen one at like the Grog Shop now going on. I saw one there in 2018, so it's been a little less long, but by a year. I mean, we're still inching closer and closer to that 5-year mark. But, I haven't been to a show in a great venue like that in a while, and it was just so fun to go and also just hang out with Joey. I mean, he is just one of those dudes where really, I mean, we've connected. We did connect through the show. Like, we didn't really know each other. We didn't know each other at all before the radio show. I mean, I knew of his band Wake, but I had never met him or knew him personally. His guitar player turned me on to Wake after they'd broken up and stuff. But, we kind of met through the show and stuff, but just one of those dudes who, even when we're not recording, we may record a 2-hour episode, but we might also talk an additional 2 hours, before and afterwards. And it was just great talking to him on the way up there and everything, and just bullshitting, talking music, and going and seeing the Flatliners. They sounded amazing. I think that new record, I believe, is it called? No. I think the new single is called Performative Hours. I don't think that's the name of the album, but I know the album artwork is really, really tight. It's some good artwork, and I know it comes out next month, and I'm sure we'll play something off of it once it does come out. But yeah, it was a really good time seeing them, good time seeing Jeremy Porter the week before, and yeah, now I'm kind of like figuring it out. I may be going to see Les and Jake Bowling for Soup and the Aquabats in Pittsburgh on July 1st. I'm not sure yet. I gotta see what my schedule's like. But yeah, that's what I'm doing now. I'm trying to figure out like July shows. But again, I gotta save money for Alaska, and I still got a lot of saving to do before September. So I gotta think out what shows I go to. But I'm definitely gonna go to some. And summer shows, and then some new music. Let's get into some new music. I feel like there wasn't a ton this month, to be completely honest. At least on my radar. That doesn't mean there wasn't like a bunch of new music out, but as far as like what I was paying attention to, I didn't feel like there was a ton. But we do have some stuff. I mean, starting off, again, Joyce Manor, 40 Ounces to Fresno. That's going to be up there as one of my favorite records of the year. I can already tell that is going to be on there. I absolutely love that thing. Moving down the line of new releases, we got one from Jimmy Eat World, brand new single called Something Loud. It coincides with their summer tour. Up next, we got one from Suicide Machines. It is a brand new single called Awake off their upcoming split with Coquettish, which will be out next month. We got a new one from Mikey. He has put out so much new music this year, but he has a new one, Love at Leeds. We'll play something off that here in a minute. We got a new one from Beach Rats, who we talked about, I believe, either last month or the month before on the rundown. Features members of Lifetime, Bouncing Souls, and Minor Threat, a punk rock supergroup, if you will. They got a new single out called Blown to Bits. Rise Against have a new one out. It is Nowhere Generation 2. It is an EP. The Interrupters just put out a new single called Jailbird. Nerf Herder just put out a new single on Fat Records. It is called We All Got COVID Except for Linus. Now, I don't know if a new record is coming or not, but again, this just came out on Fat Records, so maybe they're back on Fat. I don't know. Third Eye Blind has a new one, Unplugged Acoustic versions of a bunch of classic Third Eye Blind songs. We'll play something off that here in just a second. We got a new EP from The Story Changes. Shout out Mark McMillan, their singer, who's been on the show. And the new EP is called Fall Asleep and Turn to Dust. Really good. Definitely go check that out. Got a new single from Protagonist. It is called Iron Mine. It is off their upcoming split with Omnigon. Lit just put out a new record called Tastes Like Gold, and we got a new band called Doki, featuring members of Grumpster, Get Married, and Dog Party. They are on Asian Man Records. They just put out their debut single called I Was Killing It Man. We'll play that right now, right here on the June 2022 rundown of the Power Chord Hour podcast. Right here on the June 2022 rundown of the Power Chord Hour podcast. That was Mikey with the opener off his new record, Love It Leeds. That song was Sick As Your Secrets. The new album is out now. It was recorded by Steve Albini, and you got Jeff Rosenstock playing guitar on that thing. And before that, Third Eye Blind with their new acoustic version of Never Let You Go. That is off their new album, Unplugged Acoustic. They do a bunch of acoustic versions of classic Third Eye Blind songs. And if you've never heard it, one of the first interviews I ever did was with Stephen Jenkins of Third Eye Blind when back in 2017 when their self-titled debut turned 20. It turns 25 this year because that was 5 years ago. So yeah, it turned 20 and I got to interview him. And just for like 5 minutes, it was just a real short interview, but really cool to get to do that. And I did put that up maybe a year or two ago. It's been up for a while, but it is on the Power Chord Hour podcast feed. So wherever you're listening to this, you can go listen to that interview with Stephen Jenkins if you want to go check that out. And opening up that block of music, a new one, the first song ever released from the new band Doki. That one features members of Grumpster, Dog Party, and Get Married. And that is their debut single. They'll have more coming out on Asian Man Records. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, I thought I saw that even though Mike Park is not in the band, I think Mike Park might have actually written the songs. I believe that was posted. They put it like when they did like the like Asian Man Records, like whatever on their social media, or one of them when they were like releasing it. I think they said in the thing like Mike Park wrote the songs and has kind of this nice little super group to do the song. So very, very cool, good stuff, and everyone involved is already in some great bands. So you bring them all together, you get even more good music. So I'm definitely all about it. All right, we got a couple just little pieces of music news for you before the end of this episode. And like I mentioned earlier, Drive Thru Records, obviously the original home for like Hidden in Plainview, who we just had on, and Tim Rogner of Alistair, who we'll have on next week and everything. And just, talked ad nauseum about the label on here, very important label to me and a lot of my friends in our musical, influences and upbringing. And to celebrate their 25th anniversary, I'm sure like many last year, they were probably going to celebrate and then kind of held off until after the pandemic. But they are back, and they are doing a bunch of vinyl represses, and actually it looks like some maybe even pressed for the first time to celebrate the 26th anniversary for the label. And they're going to be releasing stuff from, Newfound Glory. They're going to be releasing stuff from The Starting Line, from Finch. They'll be releasing stuff from the early November, Steel Train, The Movie Life, Hello Goodbye, Houston Calls, Halifax, and tons more. They put up a little 55-second teaser up on their social media. And yeah, it looks like they're going to be celebrating with, and I don't know, maybe there's more to come. I know they did just relaunch their website not long ago. But as of now, the big celebration for the anniversary of the label are these vinyl presses. And, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know that I'll grab all of them. There was a time where I definitely would have bought in anything they put out. Like, I mean, if they would have put these out maybe like 10 years ago, and I get it, that was, well, actually they did put out like 10 years ago that starting line, the early years vinyl. But, I think that was kind of the beginning of vinyl getting big. And, since then, I think it's gotten much, much bigger. And, definitely, I don't know, to be honest, off the top of my head, what ones I would probably grab. But I would definitely grab some vinyl presses for sure. But yeah, I mean, there was a time I would have grabbed all of them. Now it's like, I mean, I will say, though, the Benjamins, the Art of Disappointment, and I don't think that is going to be on the list. But like, if that got a vinyl pressing, and that would be the first time it got pressed, I would be all over that. I would definitely grab it. You'll Never Eat Fast Food Again. I don't think that will ever get a vinyl press. Welcome to the Family did, which is also a comp, but that also had the whole pizza box thing and everything, which I think was also one of the big reasons why that got a press. But, there's like, I don't know, there's a couple others. I mean, if I was getting obscure, like the Mother Manias and the Cousin Olivers, the really early stuff, I would probably grab. Maybe even like Alistair's Dead Ends and Girlfriends, like some stuff like that. But, I think I know a lot of people are going to be excited for those, vinyl presses. And, again, it'll be interesting to see how else they celebrate. I mean, I don't know that Drive Thru is on the best, terms with all their bands. I don't think it's bad blood with everybody, but I don't know that like all things are good enough where like we'll ever see like a Drive Thru Records, reunion tour where like, Drive Thru Records officially, obviously you get those, you get them all, there's definitely old Drive Thru label mates that still tour together, but like, a really like a full-fledged like 5-band tour, with, Drive Thru putting it on and everything. I don't know that we'll ever see that happen. But which is unfortunate. I think that that label is very important for a bunch of people and also an era of music. I mean, really, Fat Records and Epitaph really ruled the 90s, but I mean by the early 2000s, I think it's Drive Thru Records. I mean, Drive Thru really kind of was the label. You know what I mean? That really was the label once the early 2000s hit. And just such I love that label. Those bands are just amazing. Like all the stuff they put out was just so good. And so we'll have to see. I'm sure I'll tell you if they do anything else to like celebrate their 26th anniversary. But those vinyl presses are coming out, so maybe keep an eye on those if vinyl is your thing. And I feel like for years they're going to be putting out some stuff in there that I think people have been waiting for years. There have been people who've wanted them on vinyl for a very, very long time. So I think there's going to be some people who are pretty happy about all that. Here is some more very good music news. The Get Up Kids have announced a 4-minute mile tour. It is for the 25th anniversary of the album, and they'll be playing it front to back in its entirety, along with the Woodson EP. They also have Sparta opening up for them on that tour. They'll be hitting the United States on starting August 22nd in Dallas, going until September 29th in Philadelphia. And some of the cities include San Francisco, Denver, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, New York City, Los Angeles, Austin, Texas, Seattle, Salt Lake City, and more. And I'm very, very excited for that one. It is going to be an amazing show. And they're hitting here a couple times because, I mean, Buffalo's the closest, but Pittsburgh and Cleveland also right up the road from me. So I have a couple chances to see them, and I will definitely be going to that. I mean, that is going to be an amazing show. The Get Up Kids are already great live, but getting to hear that record front to back, along with Woodson, I mean, that is going to be a really good show full of. I mean, they play a good amount of 4-minute mile songs, and they definitely have played songs off Woodson when I've seen them. But there's going to be songs off both those that I've definitely never heard live. and that they probably don't play live a whole lot. You know, I mean, there's certain ones they do, but there's definitely ones off that record where I don't think they touch them all too often. So that is going to be cool. I'm really looking forward to that tour. That is, you know, as I was talking about me budgeting tours and getting everything around so I can still go to Alaska, that is going to be one, which actually they'll be here. You know what's so funny is I'm saying that they're going to be there in September in Buffalo and Cleveland and Pittsburgh. There's a good chance I'm in fucking Alaska. So I actually, maybe I don't see that tour and that's going to make me sad, but I also got to go see Alaska. So I don't know. These are dilemmas of my life, folks. I'm sorry to spread the drama, but that's what I'm dealing with right now. I'll have to figure that out. And one more piece of music news for you, then I'll let you go. Unwritten Law have announced a new record. It is called Hum, and it will be out next month on July 29th. The album features Scott Russo and Wade Human. I believe it is Wade's first new full length with them of like new songs since he rejoined some years ago. I mean, I know they did like that acoustic record a while back, but this is going to be again like the first, I think, one of like all new material, and this is also their first new record of new music in over a decade. So it has been a long time coming. I'm excited for it. Unwritten Law are one of those bands that I will every now and then kind of forget about, and then I'll get back into them and go like, shit, like they're really good at what they do. Like, you know what I mean? Like I think Unwritten Law are really good at like fast skate punk, pop punk, and I mean obviously later on that like alternative rock kind of, you know, too, that they did with like on Elva and everything. But just a solid band with some really, really great records. And I'm excited to see what they do on this one. I don't know. They really haven't released any new singles. You know, again, it's been 10 years since the last record. So as far as expectations on what it's going to sound like and stuff, I don't know. I mean, with Wade back in the mix, maybe they'll go more towards like an older school sound. I mean, I know they did the tour for the self-titled record maybe a year or so ago. Well, actually, no, at this point, you know what? I say that. I bet it was like 2019, 2020 they did that. Yeah, it was, because I think that album came out in like 99 or 2000. But, I feel like that's a record a lot of, like, honestly, and maybe they'll do something totally different, but like, if I was to have hopes of what it would sound like, I would love something in the vein of self-titled where, you know, I think that's a perfect meeting of, I think, the band's early, like more fast skate punk stuff, and then the more kind of alt rock sound that they went to, you know, with like Elva and later releases. I think self-titled was really this kind of sweet spot of what the band does best. So, I mean, you know, I would love to hear something like that, but, you know, who knows? Maybe we'll get something totally left field that we wouldn't expect from Unwritten Law. You know, I'm excited to see either way. I always look forward to new stuff from them. It doesn't happen a whole lot, but, you know, when they do, and then hopefully there's a tour with that. You know, maybe they'll go tour. I feel like I've seen them a couple times live, and I feel like they're a hit or miss band live. I feel like you either get a really, really good show or you get a really, really interesting show. But, you know, nothing that deters me from, never seeing them again. I saw them a couple years, or again, it's with this couple years ago thing. I saw them 6 years ago, and 6 years ago when they did their tour with them and Phoenix TX. And they were pretty good on that. And actually, after that, like a couple months later, they did a tour with Pennywise, Strung Out, and I forget who else was on that tour. But I saw them on that, and they were excellent as well. They, you know, honestly, they might have been my favorite band that night, actually. And they were good on the Phoenix TX tour, but they were exceptional on that Pennywise tour. They were really, really good that night. But, I'm excited for new Unwritten Law. I'm looking forward to that. I am excited for that Get Up Kids tour, even though I may not even be in the lower 40. I will be in the United States, but I'll not be in the lower 48. And also, looking forward to that, those drive-through vinyl releases. Again, you know, I don't see me like going insane and dropping hundreds and hundreds of dollars on vinyl, but you know, maybe I'll go through, see what they release, and you know, there's a record or two in there that I may have to grab for the collection. I definitely won't say that I'm not going to buy any of them because I think that would just be a damn dirty lie. And I don't want to lie to you fine people, so I won't do that. But that is going to be it. That is our June 2022 rundown of the Power Chord Hour podcast. And so next week we should have Tim Rogner of Alistair. We will be doing that interview here in the next day. So I guess unless we got to reschedule or everything just terribly falls through, we will be having Tim on first time since 2019 next week, talking Last Stop Suburbia for its 20th anniversary, 20th anniversary. I had to think there for a second. We've been talking so many album anniversaries on this one. I had to make sure I had the right one. But yeah, Turning 20 came out in 2002, and we'll be talking all about that. I'm very excited. And so I guess this is the time where I tell you to go follow us online. We're at Power Chord Hour on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. If you go follow us there, we are wherever you're listening to this. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. We really appreciate that. It helps out a ton. And we got new radio shows for you every Friday night, 8 to midnight on 107.9 WRFA in Jamestown, New York. And you can stream the station from anywhere at WRFALP.com. And if you want to, actually, you can also go to that website if you want to hear that George Porter Jr. Interview I did a few weeks ago on Arts on Fire. And also I did one with Colin Mockery of Whose Line Is It Anyways. That was a really fun one that you might want to go listen to from a few weeks back. You can find those on WRFALP.com. And I'm sure you can navigate the website. You will find all that there, how to stream the site and listen to all the audio on demand. I'm sure you can do that. You figured out this podcast. You can figure that out. And also, I do weekly episode playlists on Spotify. If you want to go search for us there, I have a new playlist every week from what I play on the radio show. So if you can't tune into the radio show, but you still want to listen to what I'm playing, you can check it out there. Just search Power Chord Hour on Spotify. And hit me up, powerchordhour@gmail.com if you want to talk music or whatever, you can hit me up there. If you are a brand and you want to sponsor an episode or whatever, hit me up, powerchordhour@gmail.com. Always looking for sponsors for the show, help cover costs that it does cost, not a ton, but it does cost some money to do this podcast. So all help is appreciated with that. So until next week for the Power Chord Hour podcast, I'm Anthony Merchant. Thank you so much for listening.